Hello guys. Today it's been a long time since I actually uploaded. So today we're gonna watch some history. Where's the hype purple? Okay, let's start.
For the first time in a year, and Shane was already waiting at my locker. His two minions stood on either side of him as Shane grinned. Look who came back. A whole year in China, and you're still toddler size. What did your grandparents teach you over there? How to fold dumplings.
Yeah,
my grandfather taught me one thing. Anger is fire. You can let it burn you, or you can forge steel with it. The bell rang for first period gym. Coach paired us.
Why?
Volunteered before I could open
Grandpa?
my mouth. He flashed a thumbs up. One of his minions grabbed an ice bucket from the bleachers.
Oh no.
Shane stretched his arms. I've been saving up a whole year for this. He drove his elbow into my rib.
Damn.
Coach stepped away to help another student. Shane nodded, and the
Why
bucket
all
dumped
the
over my head.
teachers
Water
so
poured down my
dumb in this?
clothes and pooled across the mat onto
Oh
the gym
no.
floor. You looked thirsty. The other minion
Ew.
pulled out his phone and started recording. Shane got in my face, but I didn't
Bro.
move. His eyes scanned the gym and landed on my best friend Jace. He walked
No.
over and grabbed Jace by the shirt collar. Your little boyfriend thinks he's tough now.
Boyfriend?
Jace kicked off the floor. I crossed the gym, twisted Shane's wrist
Whoa,
until his fingers opened, stepped left when his fist swung at my face. His punch cut through air and spun him into nothing.
What did he
Shane caught
study
his
over
balance
there,
and
right?
shouted at his minions. Guess this little
Minions.
freak. The first minion charged. His shoe hit the
Shot.
puddle and his legs flew out from under him. The
Damn.
other rushed me from behind. I stepped aside and he tripped over the first one.
Oh my
His phone
god.
went flying.
Oh,
Shane
that
screamed
iPhone
and threw wild
17.
punches. Every swing spun
What
him further
is
off
he
balance
doing?
until he tripped and dropped one knee in front of me. Three of them on the floor. I hadn't thrown a single punch.
Whoa.
Jace stared at me. What did they teach you over there?
I
While
don't
running
know.
laps in gym class, I felt my chest lock up and reached for my
Oh
inhaler.
no.
The gym
This
teacher
guy has
immediately
asthma?
ran toward me and ripped it out of my
Asthma?
hands. Stop being soft.
Asthma?
You don't need this. Now give me 10 more
Can somebody pronounce it for me or something?
laps. There was nothing I could do, so I kept running, but
Okay.
my legs felt like concrete and every
Oh
breath
no.
was harder to catch. The gym lights
He's
blurred at the edges,
dying,
and I
man.
started seeing black. Mr. Riggins paced beside me and stopped the whole class to point. Look at this pathetic loser. He can barely run 5
Damn.
laps. No wonder he's
Bro
so
should
weak.
get
The kid in the
arrested.
front row couldn't hold it.
Not fired, arrested. Man, all these kids should be get arrested. They should know that his story, whoever this kid is, have asthma. Asthma. Asthma.
He looked at me, then laughed like everybody
Bro,
else. Riggins has been here for more than 10 years.
don't
He even
care.
taught history before he was a gym teacher. How dare you accuse one of
Wait,
my staff? Leave
the
before I give
principal
you
looks so
detention. The
ugly.
next day, Riggins called me out again. Move it, asthma boy.
Oh
Or do you
my
need
god.
mommy to carry you? The class laughed again. I locked my jaw, ran my laps.
I want to just hit him
Something
in
the
the
principal
face.
had said stuck with me. So I went to the library and looked through
Okay.
the staff directory and clicked Riggins' name, just as I thought. Certified in history, not PE. Then I looked over the
Oh
policy
damn.
handbook and found it. That's when I knew I had him. I walked into the principal's office, and before he could say anything,
Oh my gosh. This is so AI. Yeah, the classic before he can say anything or something.
I slammed the policy
Okay.
handbook on his desk. Mr. Riggins is certified in history, not PE. And
Okay, don't care. I'm just gonna fire him.
staff aren't allowed to administer physical discipline. So you either do something about it, or I report you to the board of
Oh, no.
administration, and both of you can be fired. Next morning, the gym doors swung open mid-warm-up, and the principal walked straight to Riggins. You're fired. I
You're
need your
fired.
office cleared
Please
out by
get out.
noon. Riggins just stood there, scratching his head. This is ridiculous. I've been running this class all year. I thought we were friends. I'm sorry. Rules are
No
rules.
one
You were never
cares, man.
certified to run this class. You can't do this. The principal pointed to his office. Don't make this harder than it is. Grab your things and leave. Riggins walked into his office, grabbed his bag, and walked out of the gym with his head down.
Well,
Weeks later, I saw
goofy
him
as
working at a
hell.
sports
Okay.
store. I walked in, looked him dead in the eye, rolled up
Hey,
the middle
hey. No. This is bad. Guys, never do this. Okay.
pointed at a chalk square
Okay.
in the corner with a chair in the middle facing the
Okay.
wall. The chair was for the seeker to sit in while he counted, but he
Oh.
chose to stand at the
Oh
wall
my gosh,
instead.
idiot.
The buzzer went off, and everyone else sprinted for the cabinets and trapdoors.
What?
I tiptoed over to the seeker's chair, sat down facing the
Wait,
wall,
what?
and waited. The seeker finished counting and walked straight out of his square without ever
Mhm.
turning around. He pulled open a cabinet, yanked a kid out by the ankle,
Oh
and
my
that was
gosh,
one
that
down.
kid
On
was.
the monitors above the set, the producers in their booth were cracking up watching me sit there. He
Oh.
sped through the rest of the room, ripping open hollow
Bro.
walls and dragging kids out of trapdoors,
Oh my
until only
gosh.
me and one other guy were left. Out of ideas, he
Why
walked
is
back
he
to his
like
counting
that?
corner to think. He leaned on the back of my chair and looked around.
Oh no, the
His hand was an
tension.
inch from my shoulder. He looked right past me at every wall and then walked off. He chased
Oh
the
my
last
God.
guy across the timer ran
Huh?
out and a horn went off. The host walked to the corner, pointed at my chair, and said one word, winner. The seeker spun around like he
Winner.
was slapped, saw me sitting there with my legs crossed, and just froze.
Oh my gosh,
Counting
Babu has
check was the one
10
spot he never
quadrillion
They
aura.
handed me $1 million check while I was still sitting in
What?
his chair. My mom asked me to return a jacket because it was too small,
Okay.
so I went and got $200 for it. But on my way home, I noticed a sign on the local corner store, scratch tickets, $1 million prize.
Okay.
I thought about it and decided if I just bought enough tickets, I was guaranteed to win. I spent the entire $200 and
What
sat
is this
outside
for
scratching
doing?
tickets for 3 hours. By the end, I won $10 and walked home with no jacket and no money. I was still
$10.
thinking what to tell Mom when she smiled and reached her hand out, saying, "Give me the money, sweetheart." I
Oh no.
panicked and quickly told her
Here's
my
that
classmates to beat
$10.
me up and took the money. It was the only thing I could think of. Her face was horrified, and she immediately
Here's
said,
that
"I'm calling their
$10.
parents,"
Oh,
and started
this guy
emailing
just started
Within
laughing
minutes,
now.
my phone buzzed nonstop. My classmates were asking me why I was lying and telling me to take it back because the school was threatening police.
Oh
I knew
no.
I needed to do something, so I Googled how to make money fast as a 10-year-old and saw the perfect thing. I found a garage sale and used my $10 to buy a broken controller. I fixed it using YouTube and sold it for $30. I went back to the garage and flipped a laptop for $80. And when I went back a third time, I found a retro PS2 game for $20. I immediately ran to the game store and walked out with $210. But when I
200.
walked home, my mom was already in the driveway talking to police. I
Oh
ran over
my
and heard the
gosh.
officers say that the kids who beat me up would be getting expelled and getting juvenile criminal records. They turned to me and asked for my statement to finalize the charges. I knew if I admitted I lied, I'd be in big trouble, but I didn't want my classmates going to jail because of me. So I did the only thing I could think of and took out the money. I still have it. I quickly made up a story about how my classmates roughed me up as a joke, so
Now there's no.
money was just in my other pocket the whole time. I waved the money and begged them to believe me. They did, and never pressed charges. I gave my mom
Yes,
the $200, then gave my classmates $5 as an apology lying about them. My daughter got what she wanted for her birthday and threw a tantrum because of it. Crystal was
Why?
obsessed with fish, so I took her to the aquarium for her 8th birthday. But when she saw how little space the fish had in their
What?
tank, her smile faded. I asked what's wrong, and she replied, "The fish are in jail, Daddy. You can't be happy in jail." She walked to her with a shark swimming in circles and
A
said,
shark?
"Sharks swim in circles when they're stressed and hurt, Daddy. We need to do something." She walked to a worker and pointed at the tank. "That shark is hurt," but he barely glanced at her and replied, "The shark is fine." "He's not fine," Crystal said, and literally sat down in the front of the tank. "I'm not leaving until someone helps him." I tried to get her up, but then a second kid wandered over and asked Crystal what she was doing. She told him, and he sat down next to Crystal. I looked over and saw the shark's nose, scraped raw and bleeding from rubbing the
Oh my
glass
God.
because of how little space he had and didn't know what to do. The worker called the manager, but when he came over, 2 more kids had sat down. Crystal loudly told him, "This shark's nose is bleeding and nobody cares," and everyone turned to look. The manager called security, but they couldn't do anything because Crystal wouldn't move, and physically dragging 8-year-olds away for caring about animals looked terrible. The manager called a marine vet while my daughter smiled at me. "We're saving the shark, Dad." When the marine vet arrived, the manager said loudly, "Tell these kids the shark is fine." But the vet took one look at his bleeding nose and replied, "The girls are right. This is animal endangerment.
Let's
The shark
go.
needs to be transferred right this facility." The manager's face
What?
went red, and my daughter smiled and high-fived the other kids. That evening, I sat in the
Nice.
aquarium parking lot, watching the shark loaded into a transport tank while Crystal waved at it. My little brother jumped on me at 7 a.m. and wouldn't leave until I came downstairs. I dragged myself downstairs to find him already waiting in the kitchen. He slid a folded paper across the table with 3 events listed in pencil. "You win. I never bother you again. I win. You teach me to drive." He could barely reach the kitchen counter, but if this got him to leave me alone, it was worth it. I had work in a couple hours, and the last thing I needed was him bothering me, so
Not the school ads. Okay. Sorry, guys.
First event was a sprint between 2 trees in the yard, down and back, first to tag both wins. We lined up and he counted us down. I figured I'd coast, but he sprinted, tagged the far tree, and beat me back by a step. I crossed laughing. "You got faster over summer." Next was a tree climb. He pointed at the oak. First to climb up and grab the 3rd branch. We both jumped to the mark, but I was barely at the 1st branch when he was on the 3rd one biting an apple. "When did you start climbing trees?" He shrugged with his mouth full. "Practice. Last was a swim across the creek." He pointed at the far bank. "First one across." We both jumped in, and I pulled ahead. But halfway across, he pulled alongside me. He wasn't even breathing hard, and I knew he'd been training for the water, too. I stopped swimming while he touched the bank and climbed out. I climbed out soaked. "You win. I'll teach you Monday." He didn't celebrate, just held out his hand for the keys. I knew something was up. I asked him why he
God.
wanted this so bad. He
This is
swallowed.
so
Dad's
small.
not coming back. You do the school runs and you work and you're always tired. If I drive myself, you get your mornings back. I sat down in the wet grass. You do realize you still have years to go before you can
Yeah.
actually drive? He shrugged. A promise is a promise. That's why Monday I took him to a parking lot. He could barely see over the wheel, hit the gas instead of the brake, and we
No.
drove into a hole. I dropped my
Gosh.
face into my hands. I knew teaching a 9-year-old how to drive was a
Yeah.
terrible idea. Me and my brother Jack were 16
I'm
when we
actually
watched a
done.
kidnapping documentary and decided we needed a way to protect ourselves. We secretly drilled a
Okay.
hole in the hallway wall behind Dad's painting and hid a loaded gun in there.
Oh
We also
my
made
God.
up secret code words to signal if we were ever in danger. Then one day, while walking by Jack's bedroom,
Okay.
he stuck his head out and said, "Hey, can you go help Dad with the scrambled eggs?" He closed the door,
No.
and I
What is
froze
that?
because that was code for, "There's someone in my room, and I'm in danger." My legs
Oh,
were
no.
shaking, but I calmly walked downstairs and lifted the painting off the wall. I reached in and grabbed the gun,
No, no,
and
no,
that's
no.
when Dad
Yes,
rounded
yes.
the corner. His face went red, and he
Why?
loudly said, "What the hell are you doing? Why do you have a gun?"
Oh, yeah,
I
but
freaked
Dad
out
doesn't
and
know
instantly
about it.
pressed my finger to my lips, whispering, "There's an intruder holding Jack hostage upstairs." But my dad yelled back, "An intruder upstairs? Don't be crazy. I would have heard something. Put that
What?
gun down right now." My heart jumped in fear because I was sure
No.
the intruder heard my dad say that and now knew I had a gun. Then suddenly Jack shouted from upstairs, "I'm just going to have a bath. I'll be done in an hour." I almost dropped to the floor because that was our word for "I'm being kidnapped." Dad shouted back, "Okay, Jack, I'll see you soon." And I gripped my gun tighter and frantically whispered, "Please, Dad,
No,
just trust
please,
me.
this
I'll explain
go.
everything later." I started walking upstairs quietly, my fingers shaking around the trigger, but Dad suddenly pulled me back. "Okay, that's it. I'm checking this out for
Oh,
myself."
no.
He began marching up and yelled, "Jack, your
Oh, no, what
brother is
happened?
acting
I'm
very
sorry.
strange." I looked around, panicked,
Okay.
and knew I had to do something. The intruder had definitely heard everything,
Yeah.
so being
Oh,
stealthy was no longer an option. I
no.
grit my teeth and sprinted up with my gun as fast
What
as
are
I
you gonna
could.
do?
I shoved Dad out
Oh,
of the
yeah,
way
the
and
stairs.
flung open Jack's
Okay,
bedroom
he's
door.
okay.
A man in a ski mask was
What
climbing out the
the
window
heck?
holding Jack
Huh?
with one arm. He was almost out. Dad saw it too and ran toward
No,
Jack,
no, no,
but he
no,
didn't
no.
have enough time. I raised my gun
No,
and
no,
aimed
no.
just as the
Boom.
man stepped on the windowsill.
I
Then
think.
exhaled and pressed the trigger. The bullet flew from the barrel and hit
There.
his knee, and he collapsed to the floor,
Did
screaming
you
in
see
pain and
bullet
dangling
fly?
halfway out the window. I sighed in
No.
relief as Jack landed on the floor and ran towards me.
Later.
I dropped the gun and we hugged, holding each other super tight.
Yeah.
My dad looked at us while trembling and asked with a shaky voice, "How did you know?" I replied, "We have our code words." I saw my stepmom doing something on my laptop, but when I tried to look closer,
What?
she immediately closed it so I couldn't
What?
see. When I went
What
through
did
my
she do?
laptop that night, I saw $2,000 missing from my
Wow.
college savings account. I immediately told my dad, but he just waved his hand and said my stepmom would never do that. I knew I needed to do something, so I set up a camera behind the bookshelf and angled it
What
towards my
is she
laptop.
doing?
A few hours later, I watched the footage and saw my stepmom use my laptop to log into my college account and transfer $400 into her own account. I showed my
What?
dad, and his mouth dropped, and he apologized for not believing me. We made a plan. The next day, he said bye to my
Yeah.
stepmom and left for work like usual.
Yeah, boy.
Work as well. He immediately circled
Just
back
go.
to the house.
Did
We
you
logged
actually
into her
leave her?
personal account and instantly transferred back every cent she'd stolen from me.
Oh,
plus
yeah.
interest. She came home from work that evening, and me and Dad hid behind the doorway when we saw her go to my laptop. She opened my college account, and that's when me and Dad stepped out. She immediately logged into her own account to pretend that's what she was looking at, but then she saw the
wow.
number in her balance showing 0. But when we started laughing, she instantly pointed her
Yeah,
finger
not funny.
and accused us of stealing from her. I
Oh,
shrugged.
yeah.
Maybe we did, and she went red, threatening police.
Yoga, there's a camera in her room.
Footage of her transferring my money. My dad told her, "You either accept what
Imagine
happened,
it
get
is
out
a
of the house, or you're the ones going to
imagine
the police." Her eyes
imagine it is a live stream.
tears
Yeah.
and she started scrolling her phone looking for Airbnbs
Right.
she couldn't afford. I looked at my college fund, now higher than before, and
Let's
laughed because
go.
my stepmom had just been outsmarted by
Let's
the teenager she tried to
go.
fool. A black car
Okay,
swerved in
guys,
toward me,
I think
shaking
it's enough for today. So make sure you like and subscribe, and goodbye.